Welcome to the February the 25th, 1997 taping of It Happened in Grand Prairie. As we bring you folks that have just been so important to the history of Grand Prairie, and some that really are continuing to make history, and that's the case today. This is our history tape number 299-A. And you're going to find the excitement of A and B on the segment of this show as we continue to celebrate Black History Month in Grand Prairie, Texas. We're just so pleased today to have a very illustrious principal from the Grand Prairie ISD with us today, no less than Dr. Deborah Moss Boozer, who is the wonderful principal at Daniels Elementary in Dalworth. Welcome to the set.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, Dr. Boozer, we're just so pleased to have you with us today. It's very exciting to do a history on an illustrious young lady such as yourself. And we'd like for you to look out into your camera and tell us a little bit about the real Deborah Boozer. Tell us a little bit about your history, maybe where you were born, if you'd like to tell about your parents, if you have siblings, if you'd like to just document it with a little sort of mini history so the people in Grand Prairie would get to know you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I grew up in Fort Worth.
Mm-hmm.
My dad's a Baptist minister.
All right, and his name?
Leander Moss.
All right, okay.
I actually grew up in church.
In church,
In
yes
church.
you did, didn't you? All right, and your mother?
My mom is Johnny Moss, and she's David Daniels' cousin.
Yes, so you're into the family.
Yes,
Oh, isn't that wonderful? Do you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I do. I have quite a few. I have 4 brothers and 3 sisters.
Would you like to name them on your tape?
Let's see. There's Linda, Andre, Donna, Tony, Derek, Butch, and who else? Reggie.
And Reggie. Oh, that is so wonderful. Isn't that a splendid family?
Yes.
And a heritage that you'll always treasure, I know.
Yes, family is special.
And growing up in Fort Worth, Texas, what was the first school that you attended?
I went to Riverside Elementary School.
All right.
And then I went on to I.M. Terrell Junior Senior High School.
But at the Riverside Elementary, now at the beginning of your school years, did you have special teachers, mentors, someone there that really took Deborah under their wing and you were the teacher's pet? Or
Well, I think I was always the teacher's pet, I think,
yes.
in elementary school. And actually, my mom had taught daycare in church. And I just always knew that that was something that I wanted to do as well.
All right. So your mom was really your mentor, and
Yes.
other than your kindergarten and first, second, third grade teachers.
Yes.
And then on into when you did get to the middle school, what was your middle or high school?
I.M. Terrell.
I.M.
High School,
Terrell.
Yes.
All right, at I.M. Terrell, tell us a little bit about Deborah's life in high school. Does it relate as the high school kids do today, or did you have special subjects that you were interested in, or special mentors that helped you along the way?
Well, my special subject was biology.
Okay.
I thought strongly about majoring in biology.
All
That was
right.
my favorite subject. I was in the band.
Okay. And what instrument did you play?
I played the French horn.
The French horn. Oh, that's great. All right. And did you have any other special subjects that?
I just loved school. I think they were
Yes.
all of my favorite subjects.
Yes, yes. And as you left your high school, then where did life take you?
Well, from there, I married my high school sweetheart,
How wonderful.
Ted Boozer.
Okay.
And I went to Texas Southern for a year in Houston.
All right.
And then I graduated from the University of North Texas,
All right.
majoring in elementary education and minoring in history.
Oh.
And from there, I went back to Houston to Texas Southern for my master's in mid-management and educational administration.
All right. And then from there?
And from there, then I went to Nova Southeastern University in Fort Lauderdale for my doctorate in educational administration and mid-management.
All right. That has been just such an illustrious ladder of success. And knowing full well that you have done all of this educational preparation, where did you begin your teaching career?
I started teaching actually in Houston,
All right.
Houston, Texas.
What grade level?
I taught in the reading lab, grades 1 through 6.
Yes.
And then we moved to Arlington, and David encouraged me to apply it in Grand Prairie.
All right.
And I worked at Zavala. My first job in Grand Prairie was at Zavala as a kindergarten teacher under Jean Berryhill.
Oh, yes, that was wonderful.
And I loved it.
Oh, yes. But then you branched out.
I did. When I came to Grand Prairie, I already had my administrative certification,
Yes.
but I needed to teach 3 years in
Yes.
order to be certified.
Yes.
And from Zavala, I was an intern, an administrative intern at Eisenhower, Florence Hill, Dickinson, Daniels.
You've been
And
around the
Houston.
Mulberry Bush
Yes,
just
I
through the
have.
elementary
I
schools.
really have.
That's wonderful. And then you were promoted.
And then I was promoted to Houston as principal.
Oh, Houston Elementary, that's such a
Yes.
fine school. Oh,
Yes,
that
it
is.
is.
That's one of our older schools in Grand Prairie, Texas.
Yes.
And how did you enjoy jumping from the teaching profession into administration and becoming a principal?
I loved it. I
Oh,
really
yes.
loved it. And we worked very hard at Houston, and we were recognized by the state for 2 years in a row.
Oh, that is great. And then on from Houston Elementary to
Daniels. I'm
To
at David
Daniels.
Daniels Magnet School. It's the first magnet school in Grand Prairie.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about the difference in a magnet school and a regular elementary school. Is there a chart that we can go by, or is it just special?
Well, we have specialized programs.
I see.
We are focusing on technology, math, and science. For next year, we are looking at, as far as math is concerned, what we call distance learning. And students in elementary school can get middle school and high school credit from Stanford University on the internet through classes at Daniels.
At Daniels
Yes.
Elementary. Oh, and named for your distant relative and that we lost this last year.
Yes.
That was such a sad loss, but we have everything in the world named for him now, a school and a street and other things and a scholarship. And
Yes.
yes, he was such a special young man.
Yes, he
and I know he
was.
was excited that you were moved to his school.
Yes, he really was. And I was just thankful that he was able to know that I had his school before he passed on.
Yes. Oh, that was wonderful. All right, and you mentioned tech, math, and science in this new grouping that you're going to be teaching. Is that finally getting around to your biology?
Yes, it is. It really is. The dissecting and whatnot.
Yes.
It really
You're
is.
coming back home in the full circle.
Yes.
At one thing that you thought maybe you would start for.
And we're also looking at connecting with NASA on the internet so that we can build our own spaceship as well.
Oh my!
So we're
Oh
excited.
my! Daniels will be very special if it can
Yes.
build us. That is just splendid. All right, I'd like for you to look out into your camera and maybe talk to the young folks that may be watching our show about how exciting it is to pursue a career in education and stick-to-itiveness and what it takes to really make a success of this.
Okay, I'd just like to tell them that you hear so oftentimes the negatives from young people or about young people, but I would like to focus on the positives. We have our young people here today taping. They can go on to be famous broadcasters. We
Yes.
could read about them in the news someday. There's so many opportunities and doors open and available now, even through scholarships, that you can be anything that you want to be, that the more you learn, the more you're going to want to learn, the more you know, the more you grow. Knowledge is power. Take advantage of every opportunity that you can, and you're never too old to stop learning.
And you need to give them a message about keeping their lives clean from any of the drug measures that are available to them just at the drop of a hat.
Yes, yes.
Would you encourage them in that way?
I would encourage them definitely to say no, to join organizations in school. Stay busy in school and in the clubs and the different organizations. Right in school, there's enough in school, extracurricular, to keep you busy all the time. And take advantage of it while you're young and no responsibilities.
Well, you've been so busy. I would ask you if you and Ted have children, but I would say you've been too busy to have children.
No,
so
I have one I call my pumpkin.
All right.
He teaches at Adams. It's Antoine Boozer.
All right.
He teaches language arts at Adams.
Your baby doll.
My baby. And
Yeah.
he loves it. He really loves it.
Yes. And how successful have you been as a parent and a chief administrator? How do you feel about yourself?
Well, as a parent, he used to tell me, it's no fun being your little boy. And I'd say, why? And he said, you always want people to do their best.
Yes.
And I still do.
And you still do. And do you think you have passed this on to him in his work as a teacher?
Yes, I think so. We talk all the time about TOS strategies and what things that he can do to help motivate his students, and he talks about things that I can do as well. And when he comes over to visit the school, the students are, wow, your son teaches?
Yes.
He goes to school? He went to school? And I said, yes, he did.
Yes. And I'd like you to tell us a little bit more about his career. Where did you send him to school, or where did he choose to go to school?
He chose many schools.
Did he follow in your footsteps?
I think so. He attended the University of North Texas.
Yes.
He attended the University of Houston,
Yes.
and he graduated from Louisiana Tech. And then he was also in the Air Force for 2 years.
Oh, that is wonderful. What a successful story. I know that during Black History Week we always try to pick our successful people, and certainly we made the right choice today, because that is such an exciting story that everyone, regardless of whether they're interested in Black history or not, would think that I can do that. And I think that is a wonderful philosophy of life. What would you say that is going to be in the future for Dr. Deborah Boozer? Being principal at David Daniels Elementary, then what?
Well, in the future, I'm focusing on making Daniels the showplace of the city. I would like for Daniels to be the training school, so that we can have Plano over and show them exactly how to have a magnet school.
Yes, yes. And your academics in that area should be so successful that you'll have the spotlight on you from the state and even national. Is that some of your aspirations?
Yes, we're excited about that. We'd like to be known and recognized nationally.
Would you always want to be a principal, or are your sights maybe a little farther up the ladder someday in the far, far future?
In the far future, I would say that I'm interested in personnel. I think it's so important to get the very best teachers for our young people.
And so you might go into that field at one day, later on, after you have carried Daniels to the pinnacle?
Yes, to the top.
To the very top.
Yes.
All right. That sounds wonderful. Would you like to give anything, one more minute, give a word of encouragement to anyone that may want to teach?
Well, I would just invite them to come by and visit Daniels. It is just amazing how you can see what we call the light bulb turn on when our youngsters are able to pick up a book and read, or grasp a concept. It's just self-fulfilling and self-rewarding.
That is wonderful. You've been a delight to interview. It's
Thank you.
so wonderful to have you as a special spotlight today on Black History Month, and we know you're doing good things for all kids at Daniels, and wherever your paths will take you, and I want to thank you very much
Thank
for
you
being
for
with
having
us.
me.
Yes, and we'll be right back with our number 299B, History of the Day.
If your brother takes from you, you give to him. And if he slanders you, you sing his praises. But if he ever messes with Texas, pray for him, brother. Pray for him. Pray for him.
As we continue our interview, number 299, we're going to bring you the B portion. For Black History Month celebration, we have chosen a very special young man. He is the president of the NAACP. He's been on our show before on It's Happening, but we thought it would be best to document him fully on this history show. And Mr. Ollie, we're so glad to have you with us.
Thank you.
Ollie Daly with the Northrop Grumman Corporation.
Yes.
Let's get your business into the very first thing, because they let us off this afternoon, didn't they?
Yes.
Yes. We're so delighted to have you with us, and as the president of NAACP, we're going to put that on the back burner for a moment.
All right.
We're going to start and talk about the real Ollie Daly.
Oh, the real
All
Ollie.
right. Now, let's talk about your history. Name your parents, and if you have some illustrious grandparents or someone you want to name in this is your opportunity.
Well, thank you. I was born in Sparkman, Arkansas, so I've traveled around a little bit.
Yes.
Before I was a year old, my parents moved to Levelland, Texas, which is in West Texas. And my parents' name is Jesse and Leora Daly.
Okay.
My mother's deceased, but my father's still living.
Yes.
And,
Does he still live in Levelland?
Still lives in Levelland. Yes,
Loves
he
it out
does.
there.
Yes, he
No, that West Texas, oh my.
Yes.
Okay.
And so we grew up there, came from a very large family, and had 10 children.
All right. You want to name brothers and sisters?
Oh, it's a long list.
All right.
But there are 7 boys in the family and 3 girls. The oldest child in the family is my sister. Her name's Mildred.
All right.
And she was a school teacher, taught in California, retired, moved back to Levelland, that area there. So she's retired and living in that area also now.
Right.
I've got my brother Jesse Jr., who lives in Detroit, Michigan. Got a brother Billy, lives there in Lubbock. Johnny lives in Lubbock. Got a brother named Wallace, that's a colonel in the United States Air Force, and he lives in California still. Then there's Willie, he lives in the Lubbock area. Jimmy lives in Lubbock, and myself, Ollie, I'm the 7th son.
You're the 7th son.
Yes.
All
and
right.
my dad was proud of that.
Yes.
He said 7th son. So.
Yes.
And then we have twin sisters that were younger than me. Their names Margaret and Marjorie, and they both are married and live there in West Texas, or Levelland and Lubbock.
Yes. And you're the only one that has proselyted down into the Grand Prairie area.
Yes, I
Yes.
kind of drifted around, and
All
so
right.
I.
Talk about Levelland. That's where you went to school.
Yes, elementary school. I went to Levelland. G.W. Carver. It was the elementary school
Okay.
that I attended there up until the 5th grade, and prior to the 6th grade year, the schools were all integrated, and I went to Capitol Elementary, one of the other schools in the area of the town.
So you have gone through the integration, segregation.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes.
And you were what grade?
I was in the 5th grade when the schools were actually integrated
Yes.
Throughout all of
the, yes.
And
All right. And when you were in your schools in the elementary level, did you have a mentor?
Yes, I had several that spurred me on and to kind of piqued my interest to make me develop the skills of learning.
Yes. Yes.
There was Mrs. Skillen is one of the teachers that I remember very clearly. She was my, 5th grade teacher, and
Yes.
there was a teacher that kind of really perked my interest in the 3rd grade was Mrs. Everett. She was a special reading teacher in the reading lab, and throughout during that time frame, we were all in a small community, and so if I didn't do my homework, she would visit my home.
She would visit home.
Yes,
Oh,
so
my.
it was quite a challenge, and so we
Yes.
definitely.
And going on into high school, tell us about your high school career.
Well,
Anything special?
Well, in junior high school, it's in the 8th grade, so that was the first time that I may have had inclinations of political aspirations.
All right.
Because I was elected student body president of the student council there at
That's great.
Levelland Junior High School.
All right.
For my freshman year. And at that time, junior high and high school, freshmen were still considered junior high in that
Yes.
school. And as I went to my sophomore year in high school, I was the vice president of the class, and after the sophomore year and my junior year, I attended a Lubbock Christian high school in Lubbock during the summer after my sophomore year.
Yes.
And then I went back to Levelland for my junior year, and I lacked a half credit of graduating, so I graduated from high school a year early by returning to Lubbock Christian the summer of, that was 73.
Yes. Anyone special at Lubbock Christian or the others?
Well, there are several. In the high school level, you know, I was involved in sports. One other thing that I really enjoyed in high school was I was on the debate team.
Okay.
And, so that
Yes.
instructor was very...
That puts you front and center, doesn't it?
Yes.
Okay. What were your other favorite subjects in high school?
Well, a lot of history. And even though it was a challenge for me, English was a pretty good subject.
Athletics?
I boxed and I played football.
right.
So, you know, and
No track.
no, the running, I didn't do that. 'Cause we did a lot of running.
It's hard to run in West Texas. isn't it?
Yes, it was kind of dry. But we did running a lot in the prepare train for the boxing I did.
Yes.
And I actually won the regional Golden Gloves in Lubbock there.
Yes, yes,
So,
yes.
boxing it. So.
That's wonderful.
And we moved from there. Well, I moved from there. After I graduated in '73, there was a gentleman who had a lot of influence on me in my early, you know, from I guess teenage years. His name was Ellis Langston, who had been a minister at one of the churches there in Levelland. And it was quite a unique experience because there was St. Luke's United Methodist Church and Wesley United Methodist Church. There was an African American church and an Anglo church.
Yes.
And those two churches merged in the early '70s, and
Yes.
they became Christ United Methodist Church. And
How
so
great.
we were very, it was, you know.
You had a close relationship with this young man. then,
Yes, I
didn't you?
did. And so after I graduated from high school, he had purchased some property in Alamosa, Colorado. No, it was actually Monte Vista, Colorado.
Yes.
And so there was an old hotel. Him and some more people, you know, investors had purchased it, and they refurbished it. And so after I graduated from high school, that summer I went and worked with him at that hotel. They totally, you know, just gutted
Rehabbed it?
Yeah, rehabbed the facility.
Yes.
And we traveled throughout the Southwest looking for antique furniture and things.
Yes.
And it
What
was
an
quite an experience. Yes, it was.
Yes.
It was. And from there, I, you know, still was, you know, young, not
Yes.
really focused on which direction I was going. And I visited with one of my older brothers that lives in California, the one that's in the military now. I visited with him for several months, stayed with him and his family out there. And this was during the fall, so I didn't immediately, you know, have to go into college right
Yes.
after I got out of high school. But during that time, I worked in construction out there, and that told me I wanted to go back to school and
Yes.
and figure out.
That's an incentive, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
And so I returned back to Alamosa, Colorado at that time, and attended Adams State College there for 2 years in Alamosa, Colorado.
Yes, majoring in generalities.
Yes, it was, you know,
Basics.
I had basic courses there, you know,
Yes.
and I started taking psychology courses while I was there.
All right.
And ended up moving back to Lubbock. Spent a couple of years there in Lubbock, you know, kind of figuring out where I wanted to go.
Yes.
And in '78, I moved to the Dallas area.
1978 brought you to the Dallas area.
Yes.
Were you looking for school or work?
No, I came here to work for the time, just looking for
Okay.
different things to do still.
Different perspective.
And, you know, I had cousins that had lived in the area, and so I'd visited the area, you know, before. And so...
Had you married by this time?
No, I was still...
You were still a single man.
Yes.
Okay.
And I lived in Arlington, I guess it was in 1980. I was living in the Arlington area. And I met, this is 81, I met my wife. She was a student at Wiley College, and she was visiting TCU for a summer program that she was going through there. And I met her, and let's see, we were married in '82.
You would give us her name.
Her name is Patricia Daly. Patricia, she's from Houston originally.
From the Houston area.
Yes, and so she returned to Marshall, Texas. Well, she was a junior there for her senior year. So the part of that year we were, kind of separated that first year by marriage, and
Yes.
so she attained her degree in biology from Wiley College there, and we came back to the Dallas area, made our home in this area, and moved to Grand Prairie in '84.
Okay.
And our first son, my first child was born in '84. Our first child, his name's Mark, and he's 12 years old now.
All right. Other children?
Yes, I've got a daughter, Lauren, who's 6 years old, and
Okay.
both challenging and
Yes.
give me a lot of things to do.
What brought you to Grumman?
I had worked for a couple of companies in the area, learning the skills of machine, working with aircraft, and I was hired in at Grumman in '84. I was hired in there. Well, at that time it was LTV,
Yes.
I think at that time. And so I've worked at Grumman for since then as NC machinist in various capacities. In '93, I was on layoff for a period of time, and I returned to college, UT Arlington. And in '95, I got my degree from UT Arlington in interdisciplinary studies, with special emphasis on political science and
Yes.
psychology.
Yes, and evolved into being president of the NAACP. We have a couple of more minutes to talk about that.
Yes, that was quite a challenge.
Yes.
It's something that I hadn't.
Were you unsuspecting and all of a sudden you wake up with the Robert's Rules of Order and the gavel?
Somewhat to that respect. Throughout my life and education background, I've been involved in different organizations where at times I've served as president in different capacities. And,
Yes.
and I've worked with Mr. Alcorn when he was president of the Grand Prairie chapter,
Yes.
and he was quite influential in trying to get me involved in community service here and aware of some of the needs of the community. And it may have been at his suggestion, but some members of the NAACP approached me to run for president this past year, and I decided that I would accept that
Yes.
challenge. And,
Yes.
and it's
And
been,
you've hit the road running since you've been president. What all have you done? You've had this wonderful luncheon last week and,
yes,
and the march.
yes. Well, we were very proud of that. The MLK celebration, which is a tradition that they've established here in Grand Prairie, and the NAACP is involved in, and we had a very successful march this year. It pertains to the Silent March, and we marched from the Liberty Bell City Hall all the way to Daniels Elementary and had a program there, which the turnout was great, and we really appreciate that. Next year we're looking for a larger turnout, and
Yes.
and what I would like to hopefully accomplish in that time is to get some other groups, the diversity of the city.
Yes.
MLK celebration, although the NAACP has taken a lead in that, but it's a celebration for all the city to be involved with and to experience that, the mood, the whole sense of that perspective. I think it would make it better for the whole city.
The part you had in the diversity luncheon yesterday, we won't have time to talk about that. They're waving me off of the air.
All right.
Isn't that rude? Just when we got down to the good part, because with Gloria Carrillo
Yes.
and the women's division and Tag Taggart, and it was a great diversity luncheon and quite successful. And John Sharp
The speaker,
being
yes.
the speaker from Austin was wonderful.
Yes.
Thank you for being here and being part of our history.
Thank you.
And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do.